Today we're looking at 12 players who are being impacted by the news in training camp that could affect your fantasy football team, the way you draft, the ancillary players around them, everything else. But before we dig in, you need to click that subscribe button. We're talking about these players every day. We're strategizing around fantasy drafts every single day in season. We're hammering the waiver wire every single day. From your basic waiver wire players to those hidden gems. We go deeper than anybody else here on YouTube. Click that button. Stop missing out. Well, we're looking at 12 players here who might have a change in value. And some of these news stories that we're going to cover might be a little bit bogus. Just might be smoke blown by beat writers. After all, you cannot trust beat writers 100% of the time. You can't even trust that they know what they're looking at half the time. And you really have to take things with a grain of salt. But starting off today, Sam Darnold's going to be the guy for the Minnesota Vikings. News to some of you guys, he was going to be the guy to start the season. JJ McCarthy was pushing him, was pushing for the job, looking good, and that was a good thing. But Sam Darnold, OTAs, minicamp, training camp, looking good in practice. He is practicing well with the Vikings, looking on points from OTAs, minicamp. That period, he was going off, looking good with the starters. He had a run about a week and a half ago where he was lights out. Prior to that, a few days before that, JJ McCarthy was pushing him and looking better for a few days. Sam Darnold, after that, gained more steam. Then JJ McCarthy got hurt. Now it's officially 100% the Sam Darnold show. But what it was going to be like was Sam Darnold starting off as the quarterback, and then eventually JJ McCarthy was going to get his turn to take over, whether it was middle of the year, early part of the season, whenever. Sam Darnold was going to be the starting quarterback. The thing about this now, he has to be the starting quarterback. Doesn't have the competition to really push him for the remainder of practice going into the season. What this could look like is him being a late round quarterback that you may want to play matchups with. You may go late round quarterback to the point where he's one of your last picks. You pick him up, QB 30 off the board, an underdog. Let's see how much that changes. A lot of people are soured on it, but on top of that, I'm seeing a lot of people fight over him in drafts as well. The upside is Justin Jefferson. Can he connect with Justin Jefferson? Can that happen? Jordan Addison got nicked up a few days ago in practice. We're still waiting on that, see how that's going to look like for the long term. But Justin Jefferson is the alpha in this offense. Justin Jefferson might get impacted to some degree with Sam Darnold, but the one thing we're seeing, one, Jefferson's looking amazing in camp. Sam Darnold is connecting with him in camp, minicamp, OTAs, training camp, everywhere he's around Justin Jefferson, they connect. He's getting it downfield. The caveat to that is that's not live games. That's not live action. That's not against exotic defenses trying to stop him. That could look totally different in season. The information that we got from Sam Darnold is things are looking good in practice. That does not mean anything once we get in games, because once things get more exotic, he could just shit the bed. That could just happen. But at the price tag here, QB 30, you're looking at a quarterback streamer, a guy you're playing the matchups with, and you might be playing a lot of matchups with him. He might be throwing it a lot. This might be a slower paced offense, but this offense wants to be fast paced. The offense wants to move the ball quickly. Top 5 in the league in pace of play, and pace of play prior to last year was top 3 in the league. Sam Darnold is going to be in an offense that wants to move the football rapidly. He might be in some shootouts that gives him some plus weeks. It's been a while since he was even fantasy relevant. It's been a long time. It's been some years. Sam Darnold, the reports are saying he's looking good in camp. It's been saying that all summer long. We've been talking about this day in and day out. Looking at JJ McCarthy clips and some Sam Darnold clips. Check those in the archives. Check what he's doing in practice. If more clips come out, I will have more Sam Darnold clips. But looking okay in training camp. But again, that's not to save it as live action. And then on top of that, these beat writers, you can't 100% trust them. Jonnu Smith is in the Dolphins offense. A lot of people are overlooking him. However, there's a lot of people plant flagging him as a late round get at tight end. If you're streaming tight end, if you're not wanting to pay up for tight end, he's a guy that got about 4 targets a game in Atlanta. A low volume passing offense here. But now we're with Miami, a fast-paced, open court offense. Could be seeing some opportunities. Expect him to get you some TE1 weeks, but we're not looking at TE1 weeks. We're looking at like top 5 tight end weeks, because once you get past the top 5, you're not really super productive enough to where it really matters for your team's scoring threshold. So we want 15, 13, 12, 20 points in a game. We could do that in Miami. Play the matchups with him if you must. But if you're looking for a cheap tight end, as long as he's healthy on the field, that might be a guy to look at. Brock Bowers is being used all over the place, being used in the slot, being used on the outside. With that size adjusted athleticism, that's huge for his game, especially his after the catch ability. And then what we were saying going into the year, right after the draft, right after he got drafted to the Raiders, that he could really be their big slot. He can start off as the big slot, have Mayer in line. They can move him around in and out all different ways. Brock Bowers does have some upside in his offense. He is cheap. Round 9 draft capital and underdog. Tight end 10 off the board. A cheap asset to get if you want to shoot for upside. Once you get in double-digit tight ends anyways, it's really tit for tat. Not much steadiness. Brock Bowers is a lottery ticket you want to throw out there if you want to speculate on tight end in the middle rounds. Treylon Burks. Hopkins has been out. Burks has been looking good all of training camp. And it's not just the basic drills where it's him versus air. 11 versus 11, 7 on 7, guy on him. Different types of routes. He's been making plays. He's looking more fluid. He's looking more athletic. Can that lead to fantasy production? Yes and no. Hopkins will eventually be back. Really should get a 20+% target share. Tyler Boyd's going to command the slot because that's where he should be. Will Levis has to hit. Treylon Burks has to get enough trust with the offensive coordinator and the coaching staff. He has to actually be on the field. He has to remain healthy. We do have good size adjusted athleticism with them. He could also be used if all 3 wide receivers are starting in 4 wide receiver sets. That's more like in the game scenario where they got to push the pace or if they're playing behind. Fantasy wise, he's free. I don't know if I would want to suggest spending a late round pick on him. You definitely want to have the finger on the trigger just in case any of these other veteran wide receivers go down. He is looking good in training camp. So if something happens, if attrition gets worse, he's looking good. He's got more pop in the step compared to prior seasons. Maybe something materializes from Treylon Burks. Keon Coleman. It was just a few plays, a couple, but he was struggling to separate against the Pittsburgh Steelers. And we got to account for that for his rookie season here coming up. Give him some time to ramp up. He's also a speculation play in fantasy. He's a lottery ticket. You got to draft him knowing that he's a lottery ticket. There is a lot of upside in this offense. Josh Allen's going to push the ball downfield. Keon Coleman is going to command air yards. However, he is going in the range of the draft. The market is saying, hey, we are getting lottery ticket wide receivers here. I mean, just look at the names. Brian Thomas Jr., Jackson Smith-Njigba, Jordan Addison, Keon Coleman. Round prior, you got Xavier Worthy, Rome Odunze, Ladd McConkey. You got lottery tickets here with a lot of upside, with some downside, a lot of rookies, and a lot of guys with high-end draft capital here that could go boom on you. But you can also play it the other way where there's a rookie ramp-up, where there's something going on with the offense. They're competing with other wide receivers. There is some risk here. Keon Coleman's going to have that risk due to him not having a game like a Stephon Diggs, like one of those supreme separators. He is a guy that excels at getting downfield, solid at the catch point, is going to command air yards. And when you command air yards, sometimes those targets go over your head. Sometimes the quarterback throws it too far. Sometimes that misses. Maybe he's going to be spiky. Maybe he's going to be non-existent. Maybe he splashes. That's a big realm of possibilities. But the upside's immense. He's a lottery ticket. He's in the lottery ticket range. Him versus those running backs, though. Aaron Jones, Alvin Kamara, Ramondre Stevenson as an RB3, too, depending on how you're drafting, how your team's structured. Really depends. Those lottery ticket wide receivers versus those running backs who will give you touches, a little bit of production, and if things stay upright for a number of games this season, if not the whole season, will give you a good return on investment considering they're going in the middle rounds. Do you want to take a lottery ticket stab at a Keon Coleman or go with one of those running backs? Brian Thomas Jr. is another lottery ticket wide receiver, but he's crushing the deep ball right now. He's crushing it in practice, crushing it in preseason. You weren't hearing much from him in the beginning of training camp, but now they're releasing clips. He's balling out. He's looking good. The deep ball's going his way. He's going to get air yards. He's going to get opportunity. He's on the starting list of the depth chart on the outside, which is a good thing for him. The coaching staff is saying, hey, we notice his talent. We need this on the field. Brian Thomas Jr. is connecting with Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence likes him. Jahan Dotson. And a report came out, it was yesterday in a tweet from a beat writer. Like I said, don't always trust beat writers. Don't always trust beat writers. But they're saying he's fallen back in the depth chart. Luke McCaffrey's coming up more in like the slot. Dyami Brown's being on the field more. And if you don't know much about Dyami Brown, a good collegiate profile. He's a solid wide receiver, good burst, creates separation. He's a very solid wide receiver. Maybe not solid enough to give you fantasy results or production, but enough to muddy the waters here. Jahan Dotson, word on the street is he's not stepping up. Maybe that's wrong. Maybe that's wrong. But we got to pay attention a little bit more to this situation. I'm not making any calls, but we do got to pay a little bit more to this situation. So if we come week 1, 2, 3, and we're wondering where Dotson is, that might have been the bat signal. A.D. Mitchell's blowing up in camp. He's looking good, and he is going to be the catalyst for the Colts if they exceed expectations. Because if he hits, he comes out of the gates as a rookie and is performing, getting deep balls, allowing Anthony Richardson to stretch the field, then this offense is going to be nasty. You got speed at the running back position with Jonathan Taylor. Anthony Richardson is a threat on the ground. You got Michael Pittman catching balls. This could be a nasty offense. Fantasy-wise, healthy on the field, getting snaps, running routes. You're looking at a deep threat here that can get you plenty of splash games, plenty of splash performances. If he catches 1 or 2 deep balls in a game, you're talking wide receiver 1 week. How many games? We have to see how that materializes. He is a rookie. Rookies got to develop. Rookies got to ramp up. Not all of them, but most of them. Brandon Cooks exited with a knee injury. It does not sound severe, but bat signal up Jalen Tolbert. Michael Gallup's gone. Tolbert's been looking good in training camp. Pay attention to where he goes in ADP. You might be picking him up off waivers. I'm not saying to draft him. Brandon Cooks is supposed to be back. Brandon Cooks is also looking good in training camp. Catching balls from Dak, creating separation. Crafty route runner to begin with. Has good speed. The knee injury is not supposed to be serious, but I'm supposed to call that out anyways, so you're prepared just in case the worst happens. Malachi Corley's going off in training camp, and he could be a surprise player, but he should have some moments where he gives you some fantasy production. You might be picking him off waivers. You might draft him with one of the last picks of your draft. You might be doing that, but he's going to hover around the line of scrimmage. He's going to get a short A-dot. He's going to get those short passes. He's going to be an outlet. He can get you yards after the catch. He is called the Yak King. That's what was advertised during draft season. Malachi Corley might have some upside in this offense. And if something happens to Breece Hall, Braylon Allen up the gut, Malachi Corley getting the short passes, getting the short work, his value would go up, getting the volume in the passing game. And he might give you some weeks of splash production here and there. Might be looking at him for DFS. Greg Dortch is looking good, and that may materialize to some fantasy production. He's going to be on waivers. He's going to be free, but he usually, if he's healthy on the field, gives you some fantasy production throughout the year. Now the passing offense is looking good. Wilson's looking good running routes. Marvin Harrison Jr. is doing Marvin Harrison Jr. things. Trey McBride's looking solid. Rondale Moore's gone. They got to have that wide receiver as the outlet around the line of scrimmage. That's going to be Greg Dortch. But there will be games where he surprises you with targets. Maybe even double-digit targets. There might be 2 or 3 of them this season. And you might pluck them off waivers, play the matchups, close your eyes, see if that game hits for you. But that's what Greg Dortch is going to be for your team this season. He's going to be a surprise player off and on throughout the year. Jake Bobo, watch out for him. I'm not expecting him to break out. He's breaking out in practice. But he might siphon some targets, impacting the upside of some of these wide receivers. maybe a little bit. Might have some splash performances. I don't know. He gets a short ADOT, 6.1 last year. He is surprising in camp. Every day the beat writers are talking him up. He's a guy to pay attention to, not for fantasy, but how he impacts the rest of the wide receivers in the passing game in this offense. Maybe for daily fantasy football, DFS, maybe you throw him in there because he's like $3,000 for the week, $3,500, $4,000, something cheap, and you pray that he brings in a couple balls. But Jake Bobo of all people, has been doing well in training camp. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Make sure to hit that subscribe button on the way out. One thing for watching. Catch you on the next video.